Okay, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Hello, everyone. My name is Jonathan, and I'm an alcoholic. We want to welcome you to Johnny and Clyde, the Rocketman Big Book Study podcast. Listen, we're just two sober alcoholics reading and studying and discussing the big book together the way that Joe and Charlie did back in the day. So let's start with a moment of silence, followed by the set aside prayer. Set aside prayer.
God, please set aside everything I think I know about myself, the 12 steps, this book, the meetings, my disease, and you, God, so I may have an open mind and a new experience with all these things. Please let me see the truth.
Oh, thank you so much. Now, listen, in 1973, Joe McHugh introduced Charlie P. as an AA speaker at an Al-Anon convention. Joe and Charlie soon discovered that they both shared a love for the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. Traveling between their homes and discussing the book became a regular event for them. See, cousin Jonathan and Clyde met in the Zoo Crew in 2022, and we also discovered that we loved reading and studying the big book together. So we were asked to do a podcast. So we meet here every Sunday at 2 p.m. until 3:30 in this room. We ask you to please have your big book handy so that you can read along and bring a few sheets of paper to take notes and underline and highlight as we all read and study together. We will be recording these podcasts in order to share them with others. You can find them on our website at thezoocrew.org. Now, the purpose of this big book meeting is to help us when we're talking with prospects, what we might call now sponsees, about sobriety or just talking about sobriety in general. See, we want to be armed with the facts about the AA program and ourselves, because freedom from alcohol comes through taking the 12 steps and working with others. Now, this is what the 12 steps are, if anybody asks you. They're on page 15 in the 12 and 12. The 12 steps are a group of principles, spiritual in nature, which, if practiced as a way of life, can expel the obsession to drink and enable a sufferer to become happily and usefully whole. So, how soon do you want to be happy, joyous, and free? Now, we suggest that you purchase a copy of the big book for future use if you don't have one, because you might want to underline, highlight, and take notes as we study together. It's audio directly from AA. So when it goes to Alcoholics Anonymous and to that, you get a good copy. See, here we're not advocating that you rush through the steps, but we highly suggest that you have a sense of urgency in taking the 12 steps and having them become a way of life sooner than later. You see, because this is a matter of life and death. And you need to act like this is a matter of life and death, because it actually is. Once again, how soon do you want to be happy, joyous, and free? Now, you can go to our website at thezoocrew.org and order a copy of the big book as well as read it online. The big book is our basic text, and it contains a full recipe for recovery. It's impossible to find a loophole in the big book that excludes you from being a member of AA. So welcome to the 2 p.m. Sunday podcast, and we're going to get started. We left off on page 62. We're in the big book on page 62, which is actually the beginning of chapter 5, and instructions for taking steps 3 and 4. So before we get started, we're going to have Clyde come in and bring us up to speed on what we've read so far.
Yeah, okay. Thanks, cousin, and hello, everyone. I'm an alcoholic. My name's Clyde. And we're in chapter 5, how it works. And this is where we learned what the 12 steps are on page 59 and 60. And then now we are in following the directions for actually taking the third step. So by this point in the book, we've taken the first step, conceded to our innermost selves that we're alcoholic, could not manage our own lives, that we were alcoholic, conceded to our innermost selves. That was step 1 on page 30. And then step 2 came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. We took that step on page 46. where we just had to answer but one short question. Do I now believe, or am I even willing to believe, there's a power greater than myself? And we said yes. So we've taken the first two steps. Now we're reading the directions for the third step on page 59. Tells us, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. And so the way to actually do that is outlined on pages 60 through 63. And that's what we're reading now. So we're following the directions on taking the third step. So the first requirement that we learned about was that we have to be convinced that any life run on self-will can hardly be a success. And that's because when we operate on self-will, we're almost always in collision with something or somebody. It doesn't work, okay? So then we learned on page 62 that selfishness and self-centeredness is the root of our trouble. That's our biggest problem as alcoholics. And so that's what we're learning about now, how to be rid of this selfishness and how important it is to be rid of this selfishness. So that's where we're at. We're in the middle of page 62, and we're going to learn why it's important to be rid of it and how to be rid of it. That's what we're learning now as we follow the instructions for taking the third step. So should I go ahead and start reading, Cousin?
No, I'm going to start reading on this one, and then you'll take over on page 63. Okay. All right. So where we left off at is we found that selfishness is self-centeredness. That is the root of our trouble, and that we were driven by 100 forms of fear and self-delusion and self-seeking and self-pity. And what we did was we stepped on the toes of our fellows, and of course they retaliated. And according to us, seemingly without no reason. But inevitably, we found that sometime in the past, we have made decisions based on self, which later placed us into a position to be heard. Then the book goes on to let me know. So our troubles, we think, are basically of our own making. They arise out of ourselves. And the alcoholic is an extreme example of self-will run riot, though he usually doesn't think so. Above everything, we alcoholics must be rid of selfishness. We must, or it kills us. God makes that possible. And there often seems to be no way of entirely getting rid of self without his aid. Many of us had moral and philosophical convictions galore, but we could not live up to them, even though we would have liked to. Neither could we reduce our self-centeredness much by wishing or trying on our own power. Okay. That's a lot there. And I just want to ask a question. So our troubles, we think, are basically of our own making. How many of us believe that? You know, I'm going to just tell you my experience. When we got this part, when we got to this line in the book, I really didn't like it. I didn't like y'all. I didn't like AA. I didn't want to hear that. When you guys told me that my troubles were basically of my own making, I was about to quit there. That was about enough for me, you know? I about had enough with you guys telling me that. So anybody else can identify with that. Our troubles are of our own making. Johnny, listen, John, you did this to yourself. Kristen, come on in.
I was just going to say that I think that it's true in some ways, like, you know, in our alcoholic pasts, I'm sure there's some destruction in some people's, or even just like lack of doing the best that we could, like lack of doing better, making, you know, getting farther than we would have if we weren't under the influence. But there's also things in our lives that I don't think that we have any control over, like abuse and things like that, and traumatic, domestic violence, that kind of stuff. So I do think that there should be some kind of caveat in the text there where it kind of, is a little bit more sensitive to like, survivors of abuse and things like that. But that's all I wanted to say.
Okay. All right. Who's next? Lindsay, come on in.
Hi, Lindsay, grateful recovering alcoholic. I came in here looking for a fight, man. I was swinging. I was angry and pissed off at everybody, and I had the shittiest past. And poor me, and I was full of self-pity. And even when I went to go do the steps, it was like, wait a minute, that person did it. I just wanted to be angry. And it's like, okay, well, what did you do in order for that to happen? Like, what was your part? And I was like, but it wasn't my fault. Like, it was them. It was totally them. And then literally by the end of being taken through that particular resentment, it was like, oh shit, okay, bye. And I said, thank you so much. Like, I had a huge realization, right? But when I first came in, hell yeah, I was like that.
All right, great. So I wasn't alone, and that's what I'm hearing. That's what I'm hearing. If you tell me that, all of this stuff that's been going on with me is basically my own trouble, I did not want to hear that. So then it goes on to let us know
Hold
that.
on. Hey,
Go
cousin.
ahead. Go
Yeah,
ahead. Go ahead.
Kelly has her hand up, and then I want to
Oh, go
comment
ahead.
on this too. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Kelly, grateful recovering alcoholic. So I believe at a very young age, we learn right from wrong. And that's the root of where your will starts taking over. And for whatever your basic instincts are for survival, we learn to cope through behaviors that help us. That goes against a lot of times the things that are good for us, for me. And I choose the wrong way to live, and I make bad decisions based on my necessities to survive, how I interpret my surroundings. And I'm striving for the greatest things, which is love and peace and safety, in a world that just seems hateful, uncaring, and destructive. But we make it because God is greater than all those things. And but we stuff those understandings that the right things sometimes don't happen, and we have to make it through. But God's great gifts hold us there, and He keeps holding us accountable for coming to terms with what is right and what is wrong, and doing it no matter what. In any instances, you have to fight to make those things apparent in your life for others too, to pass that along. I guess that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Great. Whoops. Yeah. Thank you for sharing with us, Kelly. So, cousin, I'm turning your video off because your audio is much better with it off. That's why I've been doing that. And I'd like to comment on this, these troubles being my own making. It took me a while to fully, figure this out, but I'll give you a perfect example. In my case, my dad was a horrible role model as a father. He was physically and emotionally abusive to my mother and us children. Set a terrible example of being a good father is. And so the point is, if I continue to focus on that and dwell on that and replay that in my head over and over all these years later, that was 50 years ago. It's not an issue anymore. So when somebody does something harmful to us, the initial event, it's perfectly normal and justified to be a little upset initially. But every time I replay that over and over and over, that's me. That's my own making. That's me choosing to replay that hurt, to replay that trauma over and over and over. So the way I can be not affected by it is to forgive the person and move on and get into some acceptance. And another example of a trouble being my own making is when someone just walked by our front door and my wife's dog barked So if I'm mad at that dog, because he's barking, can you see how I'm claiming that that's my problem? That dog is my problem. No, the dog isn't the problem. The way I'm responding to it is, if I get upset by it. So I just get into acceptance and let it go. And so that's what they're talking about here. That dog barking is not a trouble. The way I perceive it and the way I deal with it, that's the trouble. If I don't accept it and move on. So that's my comment on the troubles being my own making. Thank you.
Okay, great. All right, so let's just talk about that. So it says that our trouble is of our own making, self will run riot, and the selfishness, that's the root of our trouble, that we must get rid of it or it kills us. And then it says that God is the one who can make that possible. And there seems no other way. So we've read down, and it lets us know, just like and by the way, this is Bill showing us how unmanageable we are. You know, we're going to make a decision to turn our lives over to the care of God. But before that, this is how unmanageable we are. You know, so because we could not reduce our self-centeredness much by what? Wishing or trying on our own power. Wishing or trying on our own power, because that's what I was doing.
So yeah, I want to comment on this here about our power. Trying on our own power. It sounds like me trying to deal with my alcoholism and my alcohol. I'm powerless over alcohol. I'm also powerless over my self-centeredness. I can't just wish it away. I need God's help. It says we had to have God's help. So this sounds like step 1 and 2 again to me, about power.
Exactly.
And have to have God's help is step 2. I've got a problem and I need help. And so that's step 1, step 2, in my view.
It is. Yeah. That's what, yeah. And that's where we're getting ready to take our third step now. You're absolutely right. That's why I pointed that out too. Our lives are still unmanageable, and we have to have God's help. So now I'm figuring out what's going on. And here is the instructions right here. I love the way that Bill wrote this next slide. And he says, here's the how and the why of it all. That's his way of saying, here's the deal. Here is the how we do it and why we do it. First of all, we had to quit playing God. It didn't work. First. Then it says next. That's where we see the instructions. When you see first, next, then again, first, next, then again, those are instructions. So first of all, we had to quit playing God. It didn't work. I had to quit playing God. It didn't work. Has everyone in this room ever said that? Before coming into AA, I had never even said that. Let's all say that out loud. I need to quit playing God. It didn't work.
I need to
quit playing God. It didn't work.
Wow. We're on our way. We are on our way. Like I said, I had never said that. Has anyone ever said that before coming into AA? I'd like to hear from you on that one. I had to quit playing God. It didn't work. What is this playing God? Let's talk about that, Clyde. What is this playing God?
Exactly. So I just posted in the chat, it's to behave as if you control events or other people's lives. It's failing to admit that you're powerless over people, places, and things. You're acting as if you have the power And we all know there is one who has all power. That one is God. I am not God. I have to quit acting as if I am God. I don't have the ability to control events and outcomes, and I do not have the ability to control other people's lives. That's what it means to play God. Anytime something happens that I'm not happy with and I feel like it should be different, by golly, because I know better, that's me playing God. And when I get impatient and I want something to happen fast, and I mean now, that's me playing God, because I'm telling him that he's going too slow. So anytime I'm wishing things were different or trying to speed things up, that's me playing God. Or trying to manipulate and control an outcome, that's me playing God. I have to quit doing that. It doesn't work. That's all it says right here. It's really that simple.
Thank you so much. And you know what, the thing about that, it's not easy, number one. And number two, it's insane. That is insanity. It's insane for me to think that I can control people, places, and events, and I can look into the future and tell what's going to happen. You know, that's part of playing God. You know, I know what's going to happen tomorrow. That's part of me playing God, as well as believing that I can control what other people are doing. I'm talking about people around the world now. That's playing God. And that's insane. You know, my son's in Florida, you know, and for me to think that I can control what he's doing down there, which I used to, was insanity, was freaking insanity. Come on in, Simon, come on in.
Thank you, Jonathan. Simon, alcoholic from London. I'm not sure of how helpful this is, but I feel it's relevant. My first experience or interaction with the AA global community, I was in adult education. I was sitting in class. I had quite a bad hangover, and a female in the group just commented, and I said, "Oh yeah, you know, I'm feeling really rough." She asked me why my forehead was sweating or something, and it was that whenever the hand of AA is seeked, you know, it's my responsibility to reach out or something like that. And she waited until the end of class, and she reached out to me. She said, "Look, and she said, this is what you can do. You can join AA." And as soon as she spoke of the concept of higher power, that time in my life, my belief system was very, very different. And only on that basis, and it's very unfortunate, this was 15 years ago, 12, 13, 14, 15 years ago. And I so wish that I'd listened then. And I've finally come back now. Unfortunately, just before I joined AA, I found faith myself. I found my own true higher power, which is my Christian God. So I have resentments, and that's why I'm sat in this meeting now, to learn how to let go, because I'm really struggling. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Okay. All right, everybody with us now? All right. We had to have God's help. So here's the deal. First of all, we had to quit playing God. It didn't work. I agree with that. Next, we decided that in the hereafter of this drama of life, God is going to be our director. He is the principal.
Let's stop right there, cousin.
Go ahead.
Listen, this rings a bell. Tell me if this sounds familiar to you guys. We decided, remember what the third step says on page 59, made a decision. So here, we decided is what it says on that instruction. And then, so step 3 is made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. That's on page 59, the step, the way it's spelled out. Now here it says, next, we decided, made a decision, that hereafter in this drama of life, God was going to be our director. Sounds like the third step to me, just using slightly different wording. That's the third step right there. We decide that God's going to be our director. That's what step 3 is. So.
Then it goes on to say he is the principal. We are the agents. He is the father. We are the children. Now, what I saw here when I read this was how the concept of a higher power is open to all. You can call him principal, you can call him director, you can call him father, you can call him God, just long as I don't call him me. But Bill opened the door there so that if you had a problem with the word God, you could use many different other words. Sheila, come on in.
Hi, everybody. Sheila, alcoholic. For me, during this step, I already believed in God, but I didn't understand the how. And so when I made that decision to turn my will and my life over to the care of God, for me, that meant going to a place that I didn't necessarily understand. My sponsor used the words, "Do you believe that I believe?" And so the words were yes. And so that's where I started. That was the beginning of beginning to stand a hot map to in control. Thanks for letting me share.
All right, thank you so much for coming in and sharing. Now, you know where we're going now, right, Clyde? All
Oh,
right,
yeah.
it says, he is the Father, and we are his children. Most good ideas are simple, and this concept was the keystone of the new triumphant arch through which we pass to freedom. Now, listen to this. When we sincerely took such a position, when we sincerely took such a position, when they put that in the book, I've been reading this book for a long time and I never saw that word, sincerely. And part of my experience is that I've done the third step many times, but I never did it sincerely until this time around. And it says that if I sincerely take such a position, what's the position? That in this drama of life, to allow God to be the director, the principal, will be his agent, let me be his child, and let him be like a father to me. That's the position that I need to take, and I need to take it sincerely. And when we do this, Clyde's going to tell us what happens.
Yeah. So here, I'm going to post this in the chat. Sincerely, it means honestly and without pretending or lying. It means for reals, like really, really doing it, not just pretending and going through the motions. So what happens, these remarkable things, is we had a new employer, it says being all powerful. He provided what we needed if we kept close to him and performed his work well. And what we need is something to solve our problem. Remember, we read about that in the chapter We Agnostics. That's the purpose of this book. It says, well, that's exactly what this book is about. So he's going to provide what we need if we keep close to him and perform his work well. It says, established on such a footing. So keeping close to him, we're going to get to that. We do that by doing a thorough, sincere third step is the first part of that. And then that sounds a lot like step 11 to me, to keep close to him and perform his work well. We're on the lookout for his guidance. And his work is for us to practice the principles that we're learning about in this book, to practice all these principles, these spiritual principles we're learning about. So if we keep close to him and perform his work well, he's going to provide what we need, not what we want or what we think we need, what we actually need. That is beautiful. Established on such a footing. So the footing now is that he is my director. I'm not running the show anymore, and I'm on the right footing. I'm letting him be the director. And here's what happens. And so here's the promises. We became less and less interested in ourselves. So he's relieving me of this selfishness and self-centeredness that above everything I must be rid of. Guess what? He's starting to take that away. Less and less interested in myself, my little plans and designs. Rule,
Mm.
yeah, rule
Clyde,
62, yeah.
Clyde, you got to stop there. Do you know that this is the line that me and Clyde met on, actually? This is the line that me and him actually clicked on when we were reading this together. When we read that established on such a footing, we will become less and less interested in ourselves, our little plans and designs. Wow. Who would have thought that all the stuff that I'm thinking of are only my little plans and designs? Don't you know that this stuff is big? Don't you know that this stuff is important? You know? But the book brings me down to size. Wow. Brings us and this is a test, actually, because this is how I can tell how I'm doing.
That's
Am I
right.
still only interested in me? And there's going to be a few more lines that he's going to read that kind of they're kind of like an acid test. And this is what we're going to be looking out for in ourselves as we grow. We're going to go to you, Lindsay. Let him finish this.
Yeah, let's continue reading. And my cousins.
And Clyde, let's count them out. Let's count them out. Let's count these promises out.
Yeah. Okay. So if we kept close, okay, so we became less and less interested in ourselves, our little plans and designs that aren't really all that big of a deal. Okay, that's one. More and more, we became interested in seeing what we could contribute to life. That's two. As we felt new power flow in, that's three.
Mm-hmm.
We enjoyed peace of mind, that's four.
Four.
As we discovered we could face life successfully, that's
five.
As we became conscious of his presence,
six.
We began to lose our fear of today, tomorrow, or the hereafter. So that's seven.
Yes, and we were reborn.
And we were reborn. We've been changed. That's eight. So
yeah.
So
this book tells me that if I do this, if I turn my will and my life over to my higher power sincerely, these are the things that should follow. First, I will get a new leader, a new employer, and he will be all powerful. And he's going to provide what I need. If I keep close to him, there are conditions, and perform his work well. Now, established on such a footing, what should happen is I should become less and less interested in myself, my little plans and designs. One, I should become more interested in seeing what I can contribute to life, right? As I feel new power flow in, as I enjoy peace of mind, I should get peace of mind. And I should discover that I can face life successfully. I will become more in touch with his conscience and his presence, and I will begin to lose fear of today, tomorrow, and the hereafter. Are these things happening for me? Yes. Yes, they are. And the thing about it is, they don't stay, because I got to continue to do it. I got to continue to keep close to him and do his work in order for these things to happen. And when I don't keep up my side of the deal, they seem to not be going on, you know? I hope everyone can see this. It says that if we keep close to our higher power and do what he asks us to do, these are the things that we're going to get. Lindsay, come on in. What wonderful gifts. Wonderful gifts.
I'm being reminded of step 10, 11, and 12 here. So I can have all my little master plans and schemes going on, how, make plans at the beginning of the day. But the more that I fight it, the more issues that I have, because it's not my will, it's God's will. And things will change. Nothing will go the way that you expect, quote unquote, it to go. And if you surrender that and just understand that things will happen the way that they happen, and things will not necessarily go as you planned in your little scheme of things. So I just wanted to come in and mention that, because that's created a situation in my mind where I don't have to be so anxious about what the outcomes might be, or being rigid with the way I expect things to be, quote unquote. Thank you.
Okay, great. Any questions or comments on what we're reading, these promises here on page 63?
Yeah, I just
Any
want
experience with that? Yeah, go ahead.
to comment. So I just put in the chat, the director, the definition of a director is someone who tells the actors in a film or play what to do. So when I sincerely take this position, that's where I'm saying, okay, God, you're the director. You tell me what to do, and you tell the rest of the players in the play what to do. You're in charge. You are the director, not me. So not only is God directing you and the rest of the cast on this drama of life here, that this play that I'm so involved with and I enjoy participating in now, and because I'm letting God be the director. And instead of me trying to tell everybody what to do and how to do it, I'm letting God tell everybody what to do and how to do it, and also telling me what to do and how to do it. It is really amazing how effective this is. These are the things that happen if we do that. And like the key word here is what Cuzin said. He provided what we needed if there is a condition here, if we kept close to him and performed his work well. So I don't just snap my fingers and abracadabra. I have to keep close to him and perform his work well. Then I get all these beautiful benefits. These promises come true. It's a miracle.
That's what you guys are talking about when you say work, huh? Do the work. It's in the book. We're not making this up. It says he will provide what we need if we keep close to him and perform what? His WORK well. That's the work.
Yeah.
So then we know that these things will happen. We'll get peace of mind. We'll discover that we can live life successfully. We'll be conscious of his presence. We will lose fear of today, tomorrow, and the hereafter. The bottom line is that we will be new. We will be reborn. And now it says, we are now at step 3. We are now at step 3, right in the middle of the page, page 63. Mark that. We are now at step 3. And then it goes on to say, many of us said to our Maker as we understood him. Many of us, not all of us. You get it? You get options here. Nobody's forcing you to say anything or do anything. But many of us said to our Maker as we understood him. And this is the what we call the 3rd step prayer, right? What's the deal with this prayer? Where'd we get this prayer? And how does it really go? Well, this prayer was given to us by a member, who was he? Clyde Harold Hill, presented it to Bill W. and Dr. Bob, and it wasn't originally this way, and they rearranged it a bit. I don't think they did too much to it, but they rearranged it a bit, and this was the final outcome. So it was technically written for AA. This is our own prayer, by the way. You will not find this in the Bible. You won't find it in the Quran or any Buddha scripture or anything like that. This is our very own prayer. AA has some of its own prayers. Isn't that something? I think that is so cool right there in itself, that we have our own prayer. And then it tells us how it goes. We've read this before. It says, God, I offer myself to thee, to build with me, to do with me as thy will. Relieve me of the bondage of self, that I may better do thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help do his work. Of thy power, thy love, and thy way of life, may I do thy will always. Here is where we take a break in the process of taking the steps, because the book tells us to. it says, we thought well before taking this step, making sure we were ready, that we could, oh my goodness. Now listen to this. Me and Clyde found this in the book. It said that we could at last abandon ourselves to him. Who? Our higher power. We thought well before taking this step. At this point is when I'm working with someone, I usually stop for 10 minutes or so, and I ask them to go and to meditate or to pray and to really think about what we're getting ready to do here. And this is not, we're just not going to parrot some stuff off and keep going. That we really want to be sincere, you know, and we really want to stop and think about the commitment that we're getting ready to take, which is we're going to turn our will and our lives over to God. And this is so serious. It tells us that we could at last abandon ourselves to him. At last. Now that was pertaining to me because I had done the third step before. I never knew that I could just, I had no idea that I could do it once and for all. Nobody told me that. I had no idea that I could do it once and for all. The book tells us this. It's like the book was saying, Johnny, we know you've been trying. We know you've been going through the motions, but let me tell you something, you don't have to do that anymore. You could at last abandon yourself to me. How do you guys like that? Did y'all know that this was in the book? Let's read it for ourselves. We could at last utterly abandon ourselves to him. I don't ever have to do a third step again. I've done it. I've done it. I'm his. That's that. That's that. Let's keep going. I'm so glad I found this. I don't have to look back. I belong to God. I love God. I need God. Wow, this book is powerful. Let's get some comments and shares on this. Anybody, what do you think of this?
Yeah, I just want to comment. Thank you for sharing that with us, cousin. The reason that it says we thought well before taking this step, making sure we were ready, is because this is a significant move. This is a big decision, and turning your will and your life over to the care of someone or something else is a really big deal. This is significant, substantial. This is life-changing stuff here. So again, I just can't stress enough. We're not just reading words on a page and going through the motions. We're being sincere. We are having this experience. We are doing we're taking the action that the book is telling us to take. And if we're doing it right, we're going to get some pretty powerful outcomes here. These promises are going to come true. And like Cousin said, once we abandon ourselves utterly to our higher power, it's just the weight of the world is lifted off my shoulders. I don't have to run the world anymore and tell everybody what to do and how to do it. I can take my rightful place and have this peace of mind and this new power flow in and lose my fear. And it's just a wonderful experience, but it is a big deal. I'm surrendering. I am giving up control of my life. I have offered myself to God. He's in charge now, not me. I don't get to make my own decisions based on what I want and what I think I need. I'm doing what he has me do. So it's a significant thing. That's why we think well before we do it. Yeah.
That's why it tells us that. We thought well before taking this step, making sure that we are ready, that we could at last abandon ourselves utterly to him. goes on to let us know that we find it desirable to take this spiritual step with an understanding person. That is us. That is us. So we're good and we're good there. Then it says, such as a wife, okay, best friend, or spiritual advisor. All good. Then it tells us it's better to meet God alone than with one who might misunderstand. That is not us. We understand what we're doing. You understand when I'm taking the third step, why I'm doing it. I want to be relieved of the suffering of alcoholism, and I want a new life. That's why I'm doing it. Some people may not understand that and may not believe that that can happen. So it tells us that the wording, of course, is quite optional for as long as this idea is express the idea, voicing without what? Reservation. This was only a beginning, though if you're honest, sincere, humble, sincere. that effect would, oh man, I'm cracking up because can you see how sincerity, the word sincere jumps right down to the bottom of the page, and that's what this thing is about. And it tells us it doesn't matter what you say. You do not have to say the third step prayer. You talk to God the way that you need to talk to him in order to get that relationship with him. And the book tells us that. It says the wording is quite optional. So as long as we express the idea without reservation, this is only a beginning, though if honestly, sincerely, and humbly made, an effect, sometimes a great one, was felt at once. And that is my experience this time around. That is my experience. When I took the third step almost 4 years ago, right? I cried. That was the sign that I got. I couldn't stop crying, and I didn't know why. I just knew that I knew that I wasn't going to be the same. You know, and that was the beginning. You know, you know what? They were tears of hope. That's the plainest way I could put it. I've got some hope, you know, that this wasn't the end, but it was going to be a new beginning. Go ahead, Clyde. What do you think of this?
Yeah, thanks, Cousin. So I just want to focus on a couple of key words in this. It says, Cousin read for us, the wording is optional. So long as we expressed the idea, and remember on the previous page, at the bottom of the page, where I decided that hereafter God was going to be my director, most good ideas are simple. Well, that's the idea. God's going to be my director. And then it says, voicing it without reservation. And what that means to me is I don't reserve the right to let God be the director now, but if he messes things up, I get to be the director again. No, without reservation means abandon myself utterly to God, completely, fully, permanently. He is my director. I'm not reserving, I don't have some lurking notion that he might mess something up and I got to take control again. No, God is my director, and that is final. 100%. I'm about to cry. Wow. So, yeah, I love God, and he's my permanent director, 100%, not 99, not 99.9, 100%, forever and ever and ever. Amen. That's what that means.
Amen. Amen. Now I see Loretta's getting ready to come, and I just need to say something, and it's something that Clyde said, and it's something that me and Clyde, you will hear us often say, and it is that I love God, and Clyde lets you know that he loves God, and that doesn't mean that I'm perfect at all. What that actually means, when you hear me saying that, you know what I'm saying? I'm saying I want God. I'm saying I need God. I'm saying I trust God. I'm saying I depend on God. I'm saying I look to God for direct. That's what that means when I say I love God. That means I trust him. I need him. I want him. I gotta have him. You know? That's what that means to me and Clyde. And we had to, just I love God wasn't enough. We had to find out what it meant. And that's what we came up with it meant for us. Sometimes you'll hear me say, I love God. That means I need him right now. I love God. That means I want more of him. I love God. I need to trust him. I love God, you know? And let's hear some third step experiences. How has this third step affected you and improved your relationship with your higher power, or put you into a relationship with your higher power? Because that's where we're at now on the third step. Come on in, Mama Bear.
Thank you, Clyde. Thank you, Johnny. I really do appreciate you guys doing this meeting, going line by line, step by step. It's all really informative. The easiest way I can keep God center of my life is I refer to him as my father. Now, a lot of us didn't have good parents, loving parents like we thought that they should be. However, I love my children. I love my children very much, but I know my heavenly Father loves them more than I do, and that what keeps me and that's the same for everybody else. I love you guys. I really, really do. Despite our imperfections, I love you, but he loves you more, and that's what keeps me focused and keeps my eye focused on him as a heavenly father, as a father that loves his children so much and just wants the best for us. So anyway, that's all I have to say. Thank you very much for letting me share. Peace out.
Thank you so much for coming in and sharing. And let me tell you what I heard. You said you love us. And what that means is she's saying she trusts us. She believes in us. She's there for us. She wants to be around us. You guys get this now? That's what love is, And yeah. And that's the deal. And that's what this whole thing is about, man. Learning how to get in touch with a power greater than ourselves so that we can help ourselves by helping others. Anyone else want to come in on the third step experience?
Yeah, I'm gonna do a quick screen share, cousin. I want you guys to see this because cousin Jonathan and I are pretty much big book purists, and the 12 and 12 does have some supplemental information that's really good though, that ties in with the steps. And I want to show you what Bill says about step 3. Okay, so check this out. This is in the 12 and 12, step 3. And toward the bottom of the first page right here, 34, it says, I'll highlight it for you. Here we go. Whoops, hold on. It says right here, in fact, it says the effectiveness of the whole AA program will rest upon how well and earnestly we have tried to come to a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understand him. The effectiveness of the whole AA program. This third step is huge. It is, I can't stress enough how important it is, and Bill refers to it as the keystone. There's 12 stones in this triumphant arch that we walk through to freedom. This is the keystone. It's the one up in the middle of the arch that's holding the other 11 stones together. It holds the whole structure together. So just wanted to share that with you, how important this third step is. And be sincere. It works. It's amazing.
Exactly. Now, you know what? Speaking of that, Clyde, let's look at Bill's third step experience on page 14,
Hey.
and what an experience that was.
Yeah, let me, okay. Yeah, page 13.
Now on page 13, he says, there, I humbly offered myself to God as I then understood him, to do with me as he would. I placed myself unreservedly under his care and direction. I admitted for the first time that of myself I was nothing, and without him I was lost. I ruthlessly faced my sins and became willing to have my newfound friend take them away, root and branch. And here's the key, and I have not had a drink since.
Yep.
Now let's turn to page 14, where he takes a look at the steps that he had taken. And it says, he lets us know this program is simple but not easy. A price is going to have to be paid. This program is not free. Page 14. Simple but not easy. A price had to be paid. What is the price? It means the destruction of self-centeredness. I must turn all things to the Father of light who presides over us all. The price is to turn my will and my life over to God. And he lets us know it's not easy. He says these are revolutionary and drastic proposals. But the moment I fully accepted them, the effect was electric. There was a sense of victory, followed by such a peace and serenity as I had never known. Fourth dimension. There was utter confidence. He says, I felt lifted up as though a great clean wind of a mountaintop blew through and through. God comes to most men gradually, but his impact on me was sudden and profound. That is Bill's White's light experience that they talk about. He said the effect was electric. There was a sense of victory followed by a peace and serenity that I had never known. There was utter confidence. I felt lifted up as though the great clean wind blew through and through. Wow, what an experience. That's the experience that he had once he fully accepted his higher power. Any questions or comments on that?
Yeah, I'm glad you're just bringing home the point, cousin, that if we want to have these really significant experience and receive these promises on a grand scale and really recover from alcoholism, it's really important that we are sincere with this third step. That's why cousin read his Bill's third step for us, and then what the outcome was. This is the real deal here that we're dealing with. This is our life, and it's a choice. If we do the work, we get the results. And this third step is really, really important.
Simple but not easy. A price has got to be paid. And that price is the destruction of self-centeredness. And how do we do that? We must turn in all things to the Father of light, which is Bill was referring to his higher power or God, who provides over all of us. Simple, but not easy. Then he goes on to tell us exactly what happened, which was, he said it was sudden and profound. It was sudden and profound. And this ties right into page 63, where it says, when we sincerely took such a position, all sorts of remarkable things followed. We had a new employer being all powerful. He provided what we needed. If we kept close to him and performed his work well, a price has to be paid. Okay. Everybody up to speed with us where we're at? Where it tells us that the wording, of course, is quite optional. So that means that you can be a Buddhist, you could be a Muslim, you could be a Christian, you could be a Seventh-day Adventist, you could be a Jewish believer or whatever. The wording is quite optional. It's not what you say. God is looking for us to be sincere. He's saying basically, just keep it real. Just keep it real. You want to stop here, Clyde? Because next we're going to go right into step 4. You want to start on step 4 next week?
Yeah, that'd be a
We
great
can
idea.
discuss some more. And this is the third step. This is the third step, page 62 and 63.
This is it.
So I don't know what Joe Blow is talking about. It's right here in front of us. It's 2 pages. It's 2 pages.
Yeah. I just want to comment. I'm going to give you an example of the wording being quite optional. And if you want to come in with your own example, we'd love to hear from you. So one thing I could say is, hey, God, I've made a mess of my life. I can't run the show anymore. Please help me. I need your help. I love you. Please show me what to do and how to do it. I need your direction and care today. Please give me some opportunities to be helpful to other people and be patient and tolerant and kind and loving. You're in charge. Please show me what to do, God, so I can be of maximum use to you and to your children, my fellows. You know, please help me. Thank you, God. So there you go. That's an example right there.
Yeah, and when we're sitting down and doing the workshops, we often ask for people to come in with what they would say, letting them know that you can say whatever is real to you is what you say to your higher power. You know, when you're turning your willing life over to him, and it's that you would talk about that right now. I've just been trying something new, right? And it's along some instructions. Now I'm a Christian, right? Yeah, I'm a Christian, and I read the New Testament, and in the New Testament, there's specific instructions on how to pray, and they are so simple. They are so simple. I'm just realizing this, right? And you know, I believe in the teachings of Jesus, the man Jesus, of Nazareth, right? And he says, "But when you pray, go into your private place and close the door and say, Our Father, which art in heaven, holy be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory. Amen." Get up, go out the room, open the door, close it behind you, and go ahead with what you was doing. It doesn't say for me to do anything else. It says, and check that out. Those are the only instructions in the New Testament on prayer. And it is just that simple. The only thing that Jesus says is, and when you pray, go into a private place and close the door and say, he even tells you what to say. He tells you what to do, and he tells you what to say. And that's it. And I just started trying to do that. I just started doing that. Not going in and praying and saying what I want to say and all of this and that. And no, I just go in the room and close the door and say the Our Father and get up and go make my coffee and go to a meeting and stuff. I'm trying this. I'm trying it. Trying to just follow instructions. Do you get this? Does anybody get this?
Yeah.
I mean, I could do it my way and I get some results. But I think that if I do it that way, I'm going to get better results. And I want better results.
Yeah.
Check that out for yourself. That's all it says. And when you pray, go into your private place and close the door. And then it says the Our Father, and it doesn't say anything else after that. It just says the Our Father. And then it's like basically keep going. Go ahead, Loretta.
Yeah, Jonathan, it's really that simple. But the key ticket is we got to forgive others in order for us to be forgiven. And it's like this program is so simple, but we alcoholics make it very complicated, but it's and I'm a simple person. I gotta keep things simple because I overanalyze, I over everything, and a perfectionist at that. And so I just let it go and just stick to what the Lord said, the Lord's Prayer. I mean, it's actually Jesus never sinned. It was it's the disciples' prayers. He taught us how to pray, and this is how to pray. But forgiveness, we got to forgive each other. That is the key thing. Um, yeah, we go into the closet, we get alone with him, and we meditate on what he's telling us, and then we talk to him. But the key ticket is forgiveness, and that is still something I'm learning. Um, on a daily basis is forgiveness. That's like the most important thing, and selflessness. Anyway, thank you for letting me share. Peace.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing. And I just want to say that, the spiritual piece is not just an alcoholic thing. It's a human thing. That's a human thing. So, we're not set apart on that. It's a human thing. I just wanted to say that. Yeah. Anybody else? What do you guys think it is? I don't know nothing. I'm learning. I'm reading books and trying to see what the book says and try it that way. Because I know my way, What do you guys think of all of this third step stuff? It's a very important thing to do. Go ahead.
Yeah, let me throw something out there. Maybe this will spark something in somebody that wants to share. So congratulations, everyone, for joining us for the book study thus far. We've now completed the first 3 steps, and I just want to give you a quick rundown. It was on page 30, where we learned that we had to fully concede to our innermost selves that we were alcoholics. This is the first step in recovery. So we've all done that. The second step was on page 47 in the chapter We Agnostics, and we needed to ask ourselves but one short question: do I now believe, or am I even willing to believe there's a power greater than myself? And we all said yes. We either believe or we're willing to believe. And then we just took the third step, and we decided that hereafter in this drama of life, God was going to be our director. And we sincerely took that position. And we've honestly and humbly, we have abandoned ourselves utterly to our higher power. So we have completed the first 3 steps the way they're outlined in the book. And now next week when we get together, we're going to launch out on a course of vigorous action, which is we're going to start with read the directions on how to take step 4. So I'm excited. I don't know about you guys. How's everybody feeling about the first 3 steps? Any comments on the third step? Yeah, come on in, Simon.
Thank you, Clyde. Simon, alcoholic from England. Now, somebody please correct me, because I know some of you have been in AA longer than I have, and you understand the big book more than I do. If you are struggling with step 3, to give your life over to your higher power, or God as I know it, then I believe I was instructed, and this is obviously, I'm trying to remember from a year ago, to actually pray for the ability to let go, to trust God. If you don't quite have that ability to jump over that gap, that chasm of trust, that's what it's basically is. It's the leap of faith. There's even a scene in a Hollywood movie where a man is told to step out across a chasm, and he doesn't believe so. And he throws, I can't remember, but he falls anyway. It's a test of faith. There's some sort of biblical reference in it. And the other man just comes along, and he closes his eyes, takes a deep breath, puts a step out, and there was something there to catch his foot, and that is God. So if you're not ready yet, just pray for that ability to take that leap.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. That's great.
Sounds like the Indiana Jones movie.
You got it. 10 points to the Rata.
Yeah, and I'm going to tell you guys my experience. you know, and my experience was, and I would challenge anyone to give it a try. I mean, I've always believed in God. I came in believing in God. I just wasn't acting like it and wasn't living like it. But when I made it back, right, and I started to the way that I was able to reconnect with my higher power was simply letting him know that I love him. And okay, you guys know what that means to me. That means I want him. I need him. I'm willing to trust him. I know that he's going to take care of me when I say I love him. So, and I said, I love you. 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 And I did it. I did it every day, sometimes a few times a day, until that connection happened, you know, again. So whoever your higher power is, if it's, you know, whatever the name it might be, just tell them that you love them. And what you're saying is you need them. You're willing to trust them. You want them, and so on and so forth. But yeah, that worked for me. That worked for me. I just said, I love you, God. I love you, God. I love you, God. I love you, God. And things just started to happen, you know. So yeah, that's my experience.
Yeah, thanks, cousin. And my experience is that, and I do this prayer every day. I pray every day that God, as awesome as our relationship is, and as much as I love you, please train me, help me love you on an even deeper level, and communicate with you on a more frequent basis. I want constant I want to have constant conscious contact with God on a very deep level. And I keep praying for that, and I keep getting it. That's the miracle of it. That we listened to a Big Book story yesterday. It was number 14 in the back of the Big Book, on They Stopped in Time. And she was told to expect miracles, and they happen. And I do expect the miracle. And the miracle is that, as awesome and unbelievable as my life is right now, God can still bless me even more. Imagine that. And I expect it, and I believe it, because I'm seeking him and praying to him constantly to give us a deeper relationship. Help me understand you even better. Follow your will even more. Seek your will more and follow it better. Please, God. And it works. It really does. So I love God. I'm with Cuzin. God is my everything. That's what this program is all about. Our higher power. That's why everything I share when you hear me at the meetings has to do with the Big Book or God, period. Because that is what has rocked my world in such a positive way. I just can't believe it. I can't tell you how grateful I am.
That's it. Does anyone here have a problem with believing in a power greater than themselves, or turning their will and their life over to God? Anyone? Anyone have a problem with the third step? Okay, great. Great. So we'll be ready to move on next week, you know. All right, is there anything else? It's been a great meeting. It's just been a great meeting. I want to do this again. I want to go back. I love these 2 pages. I really do. Pages 62 and 63. These are probably some of my favorite pages in the book.
Well, the context of speaking about our higher power, which is God, seems quite most relevant in step 3.
Exactly. You're absolutely right. You know, this will bring us to step 3. That's right. And in on page 45, it says, so we're going to talk about God. So we're going to talk about God, you know. All right, good. So this was a great meeting. And yeah, we're not going to overkill. We did enough. If nobody, you know, if we're good, we're good. We leave it like that. So let me see if I could get the closing statement up. If that didn't leave, my computer just went crazy over
Let's
here.
see if we can encourage a few more to turn up next week. Would be nice.
Yeah, people come. We don't have a problem with that. Usually it's about 10 to 15 of us.
Okay.
And what we actually do is we want you to read ahead, Simon, and we want you to come in and give us what you're getting out of the book, you know? So that's the deal. We want you to read ahead, read a few pages ahead, and so by the time that we get to the next page, you already have something for us with it. Can you do that for us, Simon?
Okay, this is my response. Unless God has other plans for me, I will be here on Sunday having read a few pages. How about that?
Okay, but we encourage everybody to do that. We encourage everybody to do that, you know. So that's it. All right. So we want to thank you all for coming out to Johnny and Clyde, the Rocketman Big Book Study Podcast. We're going to meet here. We still meet here every Sunday from 2 to 3:30 in this room. And our podcast will be available by Friday. Just go on the website. When what we record today is usually up and running by Thursday or Friday. So our book is meant to be suggestive only. We realize that we know only a little. God will constantly disclose more to you and to us. Ask him in your morning meditation what you can do each day for the man who is still sick. The answers will come if your own house is in order. But obviously, you cannot transmit something that you haven't got. So see to it that your relationship with him is right, and great events will come to pass for you and countless others. This is a great factor for us. So abandon yourself to God as you understand him. Admit your faults to him and to your fellows. Clear away the wreckage of your past. Give freely of what you find and join us. We shall be with you in the fellowship of the Spirit, and we will surely meet some, and you will surely meet some of us as we trudge the road to happy destiny. May God bless you and keep you until then. So let's close this meeting with the Lord's Prayer all together. Who woke us up this morning? Our Father,
Our Father,
which art in heaven,
heaven,
holy be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven.
give us this
Give
day,
us this day our daily bread, and
our
forgive us our trespasses,
forgive
as
those
we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil.
the
For
power,
thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever and ever. Amen. Okay, great meeting. Thank you guys again for coming out. We'll see you next week.
Thank you
very
so
much.
much, guys, as
Bye.
always.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Love you all. Bye-bye.